Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And it's time for another daily dose of dismal Disney, I guess. Disney will not recognize a union. The Animation Guild is seeking to unionize the production workers on The Simpsons, Family Guy, and American Dad, the former Fox properties, I guess. They're going to unionize, and it's not the animators. These are the production people, and Disney's not recognizing this union right away.
But the union thing seems to be an ongoing issue lately. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, so we're going to roll a lot of union news into this video because it's not just Disney. I did a video the other day talking about Seven Seas, the manga publisher, their attempts to unionize. That Seven Seas is not going to recognize that union. They've actually hired lawyers to fight it. And, Disney
has big time lawyers, so Disney doesn't want to recognize that they'll probably win.
Yeah. This is kind of similar to what happened with Image Comics. And here's the thing, though. It's happening all over the place. This is a worst case scenario. And I told people about this. I said, look, I'm not anti-union.
No.
Depends on the purpose of the union. But I can tell you, as an old dog who's worked many places, and I've worked in places that did unionize, the one place I worked at, the boss sold the company just so he didn't have to deal with the union.
Right.
And it looks like this one Starbucks in New York is actually going to shut down so they don't have to deal with the union.
Yeah, and they're mad about it.
Look at what Kickstarter did. They unionized, and almost all their unionized employees, as soon as they hit a bump in the road, they're like, oh yeah, hey, we're running out of money. Goodbye. Bye, everybody.
Well, with Starbucks, there's a bunch of different locations that are unionizing. And I guess in this case, they said that they struck one day because they said that the grease trap or something overflowed. So that apparently leads to a strike. And because of that, I think it's retaliation for striking one day. And the union's setting up a thing so that all these baristas can strike if they want to. And I'm just like, see, that's where you lose me. Like, I agree.
Yeah.
Starbucks is one I think should have a union because of it's like, a lot of these things I believe that unions might be a beneficial thing. When you misuse it is when I tend to disagree. And there's some unions out there that seem predatory in their move to make sure they try to grab up as many different people into their union as they can because they make money.
Well, CWA is one of them.
Yeah.
And they're the ones behind the Activision union. They're the ones behind the Image Comics union. They're the ones behind the Seven Seas union. And it does seem like they're trying to find like disgruntled geek workers to unionize. And a lot of times, look, I'm not saying that these people don't work hard. I'm not saying that they're not being, worked harder during the pandemic, because we know that the demand for manga was insane.
Right.
The demand for animation was insane. But on the union's side, I think they are being very predatory, and I think they're also taking advantage of the situation that, people can't find employees. So they're like, well, if you want any employees, you're going to have to deal with the union.
I think that where there might be some, valid concerns that it's just being blown up.
Yeah, so let's talk about this. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 269,000 subs.
Woo!
Thank you so much for the support. We do talk about the animation industry. We talk about comics. We've been talking about unions because there's been this weird trend in the pop culture space over the last year or two for all of these companies to start unionizing. Now, animators have been unionized historically, but not the production workers.
Well, I can kind of see it, but what got me with some of the things we talked about previously was it wasn't just that they wanted to unionize, because some of the things we can understand why they wanted to unionize for. It would become a fact where, we want to dictate content, or we want to dictate things that a union shouldn't be dictating. And that's where we usually have a problem with it. Yeah,
and that's usually, unfortunately, in current year, that's where things
fall apart.
Tend to fall apart. Yeah, it's because it used to be the mindset was like, okay, well, I'm in the union and it's to protect me, protect my wages, protect my family, protect my fellow workers from being exploited. Now people tend to unionize because they want to have control over the means of production. They want to have control over the content that these studios and publishers make. They want to be
the one exploiting.
They want to be the ones exploiting. And it's basically, I feel in a lot of ways they're holding a gun to the heads of the owners of these companies, because they're like, you'll do what the workers want or else. And so a lot of times they're just like, fine, then we just fucking shut it down.
And then they do that, and then they try to yell about how it's illegal.
Yeah, so this is a couple days ago. I actually had someone send it over, and there's been an update on Cartoon Brew, but they said production workers on The Simpsons, Family Guy, and American Dad have filed to join the Animation Guild IATSE Local 839 and begin collective bargaining for their first union contract. Together, they boast more than 750 years of industry experience in animation. The Guild said it's time they receive the benefits and improved work conditions they
How many people were we talking about?
Well, quite a few if we're talking 750 years. But here's Cartoon Brew's take on it, and they kind of break it down into little chunks here. It's a lot easier to understand. So they basically said that the production companies have not responded well. According to TAG, attorneys representing the organizations which employ those workers responded to the request by stating the production's parent studio, Disney and 20th Century Animation, is not yet prepared to voluntarily recognize the entire unit as proposed by TAG and has asked for additional time to review. Disney hasn't reviewed a statement
they just
yet.
said they just want additional time to review. That doesn't mean no.
Well, yeah, it says Disney has not granted voluntary recognition. Production workers on the 3 shows are filing petitions for union elections with the National Labor Review Board. So sometimes what happens when these companies try to save face, and that's what happened with 7 Seas, and we're going to talk about, like, the next step is the company hires lawyers to try to keep the union out, because that was kind of like Image too. They're like, oh yeah, you guys are fine, everything's fine. We don't recognize it because we don't think we need to recognize it. And then they started throwing Image Comics people under the bus, and it got pretty heated. We had Mark Silvestri not putting the names of unionized employees on his books anymore because he's probably like, fuck you guys. You get paid plenty for stapling stuff, and this, again, these are not. This is the same with Activision too. It was like a game testing group or something. It wasn't like the people that actually make the games. And I'm not saying that production people don't work hard. I'm sure production people are working very hard. But historically, they have not been unionized. So we're talking like IT people. Here we go. They said, artists on the show are already covered by the Guild's current contract. Workers represented in this unionization drive include production managers, production supervisors, production coordinators, writers' assistants, production assistants, associate producers, office assistants, IT supervisors, among others.
No, I mean, I get it. Like some of these jobs, I get it. If it's like, just about actual work environment stuff, I think, I can understand why they do. But does it go beyond that is what I'm asking. Because a lot of times you see this, we want better work conditions. We want, things more clarified better, things like that. And then they get with it, but we want to control the content. It's like, that's where you lose me. That's why I'm saying is, if they're not asking for that, I kind of can see it.
Yeah, in IATSE's case, I don't think that's the case. In the case of CWA, that tends to be where it goes. Now, I noticed with 7 Seas that they had a lot of the same bullet points that they had for Image Comics, except they left off the bit about controlling the content. But I'm like, they said with Image that that's what they wanted to do. They wanted to be able to review the content.
Right.
If you've got a whole bunch of people saying like, well, we don't want to work with so-and-so because they're Nazis.
In regards here, they're like, if they're at the job for years and years, they said that they want to be included so they can have the same quality healthcare, pensions, transparency, and compensation that the other people have at the company. Those things I can kind of understand.
Yeah.
As long as they're not like, I demand, but what's interesting to me is Disney hasn't recognized it.
Yeah, normally they would. And I think this is, at this point, because Disney is pinching pennies, I think what could potentially happen, I'm going to tell you the truth, and this will tie into the Starbucks thing, and this will tie into the 7 Seas thing. They could potentially recognize the union and then be like, you know what? The Simpsons, it's been on a really long time. And you know what? I don't think it's funny anymore current year. And I think it might be time to retire The Simpsons.
Right, because we have lots of content we can still use.
We've got 35 years or some shit of The Simpsons, and only the first 10 seasons are worth watching.
Well, honestly, a lot of the backlash they've gotten lately, I would have washed my hands of it a long time ago, personally. But
they feel like they got something out of Fox. Like American Dad, I'm shocked is still on. But there are other animation studios that again have unionized, and historically artists have been unionized.
Right, and in regards to that, where they want the same things, they just want clarification. They want to have access to healthcare and things like that, and earn that they work there full time or whatever. I don't disagree with that. I really truly don't. It's when you come down to, and we want to control everything, that I am like, no.
Yeah, and that was Kickstarter. And that was, I think that was CWA too. And that was Image
It's
Comics.
usually CWA.
And so let's talk about this, because I think what's going to happen though, just knowing where Disney is at right now, and the fact that they are cutting animation and they're cutting streaming spend and all stuff, this could potentially put these people in the crosshairs of layoffs, the show getting shut down. Again, American Dad, is anybody watching that now? Why is that still a thing?
Most of these shows, I can see Disney cutting before, they don't really need them.
Yeah, so this is coming from Bleeding Cool, that Seven Seas is hiring a lawyer to deal with the new manga union. So they're basically lawyering up because, it's not good. So how would the announcement of the unionization go over with Seven Seas? Pretty much how it went with Image Comics. Seven Seas released the following statement. We appreciate having the opportunity to give our point of view regarding the union. They always try to be nice about it, but they're like, no, fuck you. We appreciate having the opportunity to give our point of view regarding the unionization efforts at Seven Seas. We respect the rights of our employees to choose or not choose to union representation, while we have been requested by a number of employees to voluntarily recognize CWA as their legal representative without an NLRB conducted election, which it sounds to me like IATSE is going to have to do that with the animation people. We decided to respect the right of all eligible employees to vote. Since unionization would affect more members of staff than those who have already come forward, an election will ensure that everyone has the opportunity to learn about their rights and the details of the process. So on Twitter, the United workers of Seven Seas said that they are being delayed. And here's what they tweeted. They said, Seven Seas Entertainment has hired the union-busting firm Ogletree Deakins. Whether or not leadership intends to try and waste our time and theirs with union avoidance activities, we're disappointed by their choice of legal representation. So they're going to throw their employer under the bus. And this is why, and be like, they're trying to bust the union. Same thing happened with Image Comics. This always happens, especially if you're working at a media company, which is why I think a lot of times, they're like, oh shit, let's not unionize, or let's, get rid of these people as soon as possible, because it always is going to wind up being a PR nightmare.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you do. It's always going to be a PR nightmare. And a lot of employers are like, yeah, we can't do this. Ogletree Deakins is the second largest anti-union law firm in the country. In 2016, they crushed an IKEA union. They said IKEA was later accused by a group of international unions of using scare tactics and creating environments hostile to organized labor.
Oh, now we get Ogletree has ties to the RNC and advocated anti-black gerrymandering.
Okay, so now it's getting political. It's embarrassing that Go Manga would rather pay Joe Arpaio's favorite legal firm than recognize our union.
Well, what are they asking for there?
They're basically, it's everything that Image Comics was asking for, except they left that last bullet point off about controlling the content.
Because mostly, I really don't have a problem with a lot of it. It's when you get to the controlling. I mean, if you're using it for legitimate things, like we want things clarified, we want access to, these things if, we qualify, that kind of stuff, I don't mind. It's when you're like, and we want to demand everything.
Yeah, and
that's what I'm like, no.
Well, that's what lost me on Image Comics, and I think that's why they specifically left that bullet point off. I have no doubt that the employees at Seven Seas are going to try to be like, well, we need to censor this manga, or we don't want to carry this manga. And all of us in the union decided we're not going to work on this book because of whatever reason.
Yeah, well, if they do that, that's not what the union's for.
Right. So I think the publisher's kind of looking at this like, yeah, this could be a big fucking problem for sure. And so they're going to do what they can do to avoid it. And look, I'm not telling you to do or not to do a union or whatever. I think what's going to happen in the case of creative industries is that there are going to be fewer full-time jobs.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
I think we're going to have more piecework. I think they're going to job more stuff out. I mean, in the case of Disney, like they could be like, oh, so the production, they're going to view it, and I'm not saying everybody's a grunt, but they're going to view it as like, okay, so the IT people want to unionize and they're not going to run our servers. Well, we'll just job that out. They're
going to be like the IT people on those shows. And if that goes through, then they're going to be like, then the other shows are all going to demand it too. Because what's going to happen is, I think that how these companies look at it, especially Disney, which is has a bunch of different branches, bunch of different shows. they're going to be like, okay, well, if we allow it for this group, we have to allow it for that group. We have to allow it for that group. And they probably just want to shut it down just to avoid the snowball effect that would be bound to happen because of it.
And they're going to look at the increased cost and be like, okay, so now these employees doing these jobs that, we could replace them. I mean, again, I'm not advocating for that. I'm just saying.
But they will. That's what
they will.
Do.
They'll be like, yeah, it's now going to cost us twice as much when we're hurting right now. Our stock's down. Disney Plus subscriber numbers aren't great. We're cutting our entertainment budget, and you guys want to double the amount of money that we have to spend on you.
Right. Or they'll be like you said, okay, well, we at 38 hours, we have to give you these things while you're all working 30 now.
Yeah.
So you got to push it through, but you're not going to get, we're going to make sure you don't get to that place where you are.
Yeah. This is how The Simpsons gets canceled finally after 35 years.
I mean, we're not trying to take sides either way. We're just saying this is how these companies are going to look at it.
Yeah. And here's a good example. Starbucks, literally as we're talking about this, like what could potentially happen because of it. You sent me over a story about the Starbucks in New York shutting the store down.
Oh, yeah. They're all having a hissy on Twitter.
They'd rather shut the store down than deal with the union. And I have seen this firsthand.
Yeah, but if that's true, though, they have 100 other stores that have either unionized recently or trying to unionize, then they would be shutting all those stores down. If it was specifically based on that, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then that doesn't make sense unless you're going to shut everybody down. In this case, they said that the store employees struck for a day over a grease trap. I'm like, well, just have someone come in and clean it. I don't understand why that required a strike. I mean, I don't know. There might be more to it, but I'm like, and I think this is retaliation for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's unions. It's a complicated situation. I know the one company I worked for, and I've told the story before, that the owner actually split the company and sold off the printing division of the company because that's where everybody unionized. But he's like, you guys were already like the highest paid pressmen in the state, or some of the highest paid pressmen in the state. Your wages were way out of whack with
the majority of
people. And then you went on, you unionized on top of it and you wanted me to pay more. And he's like, I literally can't do it and make a profit. So I'm going to sell the printing division off. And since the next person that comes in, you have to make a deal with them, then it just kind of reset everything. And, that's what they did to avoid it. I mean, that's a pretty extreme example, but companies are willing to do it. I mean, because they have to look at, like, are we actually going to make a profit now or not? And if we're not going to make a profit because we got to pay everybody too damn much money, then shut it down.
Yeah, so I don't know what's going on here, but apparently there's a bunch of stores that want to unionize, but they're going to close this one, and apparently it's a very busy store. And they're claiming it's because it's not busy enough, and people are arguing that it is. I don't know, but it's another case of where they got a union through, and now it's causing Starbucks headaches, which means Starbucks might try to fight other unions from forming. Basically, it's companies don't want to deal with you.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly it. And here's the thing. And you look at the companies that are going through this, and they are companies that activist-minded people tend to be attracted to.
Yes.
Starbucks, you have a lot of people working as baristas until they do their art or writing or whatever they want to do, right? And Starbucks is always, again, catered to the progressive crowd, and part of that comes with the belief that everybody should be unionized and making $50,000 a year minimum base pay.
Well, if Starbucks really catered to that crowd, they would make their coffee free.
They should just make coffee free.
You pay for it what you feel like you should pay for it, just to make sure anybody who wants it can have it. Because otherwise, it is clearly just some kind of privilege, and it's keeping people down.
Coffee is a right.
Yeah, coffee is a right, not a privilege, and everybody should just be given coffee for free from Starbucks because that's what they should do, especially to minorities.
What? Yeah, right. Yeah. So so this is oh my God, guys, this is a great business idea. Maybe we can go to Kickstarter and we can do it. We're going to open a coffee shop, and we're not going to actually get paid for the coffee. We're going to pay everybody $50,000 to $75,000 a year
to make the coffee.
Because that's a living wage. We're going to pay them all that to make the coffee, but we're just going to put a tip jar out, a plain red tip jar. Yeah. Because we don't want to offend everybody, but we're going to put a tip jar out.
Some people might get offended by that. They might be you implying that color is representative of somebody.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, but people pay what they want, right? And we're going to keep paying everybody $50,000 to $75,000 a year. And all the homeless people, they're all welcome because it's great. You know, come on in. Everybody deserves a $6 latte. And then when we run out of money, we'll just go back to Kickstarter.
No, we'll be unionized, so they have to pay us anyway.
Yeah, they have to pay us again.
And if they close it down, it's because they're haters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme example, but that's kind of like the mindset. Now, and meanwhile, there are legitimately some businesses out there doing this where you can either prepay for food for somebody who's homeless, or you can pay, like they have things where you pay for what you think it's worth. And sometimes it works out really well. Sometimes, a lot of times it doesn't. But I do believe in the ones pay ahead for people who need.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it works out. Like Humble Bundle, that's their whole business model. You just kind of pay what you want. But I guarantee you that the people that put their content in Humble Bundle have already made a bunch of money elsewhere. Like they can afford to give it away for little or no cost after it's been paid for. So that's the thing. People understand, like, stuff has to get paid for. And that's one thing that escapes a lot of people who want to unionize. Now, in the case of 7Cs, they're probably looking at the numbers, because I know, again, you know, we've got friends that work in manga publishing, and they're like, we cannot keep up. And they're probably looking at like, shit, man, there's a lot of money getting pumped into this place. Why aren't we getting a cut? And I'm like, well, you might get cut if they decide you cost too much, you know? And I don't know what to tell you. It's just like, I mean, it's like every week there's a new...
Start your own and go get the licenses.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know what
then you can take all the money.
You can take all the money, yeah, right? But then, guess what? You're going to have to deal with your own employees.
When they want the cut of that money.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to wrap this one up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.
Now he's just tasty, delicious, rotten flesh meat, which I can consume. Don't read into it too much.
Just like our museum, the cafe's open and Brewster is eager to serve. I don't think this was in the show. Run, 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 run. Oh, you got splatted. Oh, she was begging and you kicked her in the face.
I don't care.
Hey guys, Squid King here, and today we're in a...
Not girl boss at all. She is not a material girl.
She is not. Oh, it's Christmas time here in your mom. Nobody wants to join your mom.
What?
Like, I can't even cook kid cuisine right. I would last about 2 minutes with Gordon Ramsay.
What? Where is he?
He's hiding. He's hiding from you.
Better.
Oh my God, you got the axe.
Walker, does this look like Steven Universe? Let me punch him. Well, I'm just here for the wax. Right where you belong.
Get in the dirt.
Well, that was a combination of events I probably shouldn't have put together. Anyways, let's open this bottle too.
Chica Pinata. Is that official?
Oh, no.
There's a bootleg.
Hello. I'm sorry.
Hey guys, it's Diamond Tool.
Let's make a farm.
Like and subscribe and buy my merch.
I mean, while you're here, you guys should like really like and subscribe and buy our merch, all of which we have.
That is true. You can't run them carrying trash. You can get away with one F-bomb per PG-13 movie.
I wish I'd known that sooner.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap this effer up.
Yes.